The looter shooter genre has no shortage of games, and it never has. In recent years, we've seen many looter shooters, especially live service ones, rise and fall. But there's one that's stuck it out for so long, and that's Destiny. The Destiny franchise has proven to be an unkillable giant of that live service looter shooter genre. And today we're going to look at why that is. Why have all the Destiny killers failed? Anthem, Outriders, Warframe, and many more. We're also going to look into games that have been branded as Destiny killers that didn't live up to that title. So without any further delay, let's take a look at Destiny 2 and its throne as the king of live service looter shooters. Before we take a look at Destiny, let's look at the Destiny killers' fails. While not all of them completely failed, most notably Warframe, which at the time of writing this has 66,000 average players on Steam, but it was still never able to kill Destiny. Warframe's vastly different gameplay and gameplay loop to Destiny is a massive contributing factor to its inability to really appeal to the Destiny audience. My info may be outdated since I haven't properly played Warframe since pre-COVID times, but I did the best I could with what little time I had to test it now. So let's take a look at these massive differences that Warframe had compared to Destiny. Warframe had microtransactions that affected gameplay, a massive range of classes and abilities in the form of cards that could be changed between missions, different abilities that could be mixed and matched, and essentially there were hundreds of thousands of combinations you could apply, which is fantastic. But for the average Destiny player who just wanted to grab their gun, a grenade, and maybe a few class perks and ability, they didn't have the time nor the effort to really dig deep and understand the Warframe class model. Warframe leaned much more towards that harder core MMORPG player who wanted to min-max their builds to the finest details, which doesn't really resonate with the kind of player who plays Destiny. As for other games like The Division and Outriders, these games were much more similar to Destiny, but again failed to attract the sheer amount of players that the Destiny franchise was able to bring over. As of writing, The Division has a mere 2,000 players on Steam, and Outriders only 290. Now personally, I stopped playing Outriders simply because it stuttered an insane amount on my PC and was just poorly optimized. While Outriders was a co-op experience and everyone deemed it would be the Destiny killer, I personally never really saw it in that way. It was much closer to a Borderlands style experience, and once it ran out of DLC or you completed the missions and maxed your character, there wasn't much more reason to keep playing. It just didn't have that same gameplay loop as Destiny. Then it comes to The Division, which should have stood a real chance at appealing to players of the Destiny franchise. It offered an open world experience with a PvEVP zone that introduced risk and reward. What more could a Destiny player want? It offered a wide range of loot that had perks, set bonuses, exotic armor, and weapons, but it just never really took off to the same volume that Destiny did. The Division 1 started off in quite a strong position, but when the Division 2 rolled around, it suffered a lukewarm reception at launch and failed to build upon the formula that Division 1 did so well. And honestly, it was a downgrade from the original game. On top of this, the later DLCs and updates never really did enough to reignite the player's interest in the game. Nothing that was added was game-changing or groundbreaking, and after the major DLCs had dried up, the updates were small patches that again failed to reignite that interest in the game. Which is really disappointing because I really enjoy the Division franchise. There is another Division game coming with a free-to-play model named Division Heartland, so we'll see what that's all about in the future. But we know it's a PvEVP survival action shooter, so again, not quite in the same league as Destiny. Now let's talk about the newest entry to the looter shooter genre, and possibly the most confusing launch of all the games mentioned, Suicide Squad. A game with a monster IP produced by Warner Brothers Games that just failed before the game even came out. Review codes were withheld from any outlet that gave the preview of the game a less than great review, so even going into the launch, there just wasn't enough information about the game for gamers to get excited about it. Now don't get me wrong, the game is solid, it's reasonably fun, it has its issues, but so does every other game and you can absolutely overlook them. It's just not a game you can play for the same length of time as Destiny. The loot pool is confusing, the game doesn't start dropping you loot until after Act 1, and the overall interest in the game on YouTube, TikTok, and other platforms just isn't there. Suicide Squad not only failed to just kill Destiny, but it failed to understand the kind of game it wanted to be. It wasn't a fully fledged looter shooter. And finally, Anthem. The game that showed promise. The combat was fun, the idea was fresh and new. Anthem sold 2 million copies in the first week and then imploded on itself. BioWare scrapped the entire roadmap and ended support for the game. Anthem not only didn't have endgame content, it didn't have the support from the developers or the publishers, which in a live service game space, the developers' belief in the game and their ability to, well, keep it live is extremely important. EA and BioWare were just way in over their heads when trying to support Anthem in the long term. They just couldn't keep up that output of content like we've seen from Destiny in the past years. I can't get player numbers on Anthem, but considering I saw it sold for $2 at JB Hi-Fi the other day, I wouldn't say it's very high at the moment. Now that we know why other games haven't been able to kill Destiny, let's take a look at why Destiny just hasn't died yet. Player numbers just haven't dwindled to those under 10k numbers. Even while Destiny is in its 10th year now, the game still averages 36,000 players on Steam at the time of writing this. But it's also got the Xbox players and the PlayStation players and the Epic Games players, and all things considered, this is Destiny's lowest point since Final Shape has been delayed and there is a massive content drought. But that just hasn't stopped players from coming back and continuing to play. So let's look at the reasons of why I believe this is the case and why it would take a really monumental game to kill Destiny. First, we've just got that nostalgia factor from Destiny 1. When Destiny first came out, it was September 9th, 2014. I was 14 years old in year 9 at high school, so it carries that nostalgia factor for a lot of players, especially when Destiny 2 brings back those old raids and shows you memories in-game. These memories let me see my first ever raid team, and I remember the moment on Xbox the first time I defeated Atheon and shattered the glass throne. Moments like that make you want to continue to return to Destiny, especially if you've got those longtime friends who still play the game, or it's just that bonding experience with those people. I'm still really good friends with quite a few people I met on Destiny, and we used to raid every week. I'm sure many other players share that same sentiment as me, remembering the first time they completed a raid boss or the first time you blew up Oryx or completed that solo challenge. Now let's talk about the accessibility. Destiny 2 has very fluid gunplay. Even for players who are first time joining the franchise, it's easy to get a hold of. It combines that idea of fast-paced Call of Duty gunplay and that slow, melodic Halo-style gunplay in one. Speaking strictly on the PvE aspect here, it feels good. You don't see yourself missing shots you thought you should have hit, and the class building aspects aren't super overcomplicated to the point where you need a master's degree to understand it like some of the other hardcore MMOs. You don't need to be constantly looking up builds and min-maxing or what items are better than what, is this a good role? Destiny's accessibility means that you're able to work a full-time job, have 3 kids, and only a few hours each night to play, but you're still able to take down that raid boss or that dungeon boss even if you don't have the best gear in the game. And I've personally seen this as one of our regular raiders had a full-time job and 3 kids, but was still completing raids with us, no worries. Now there's one thing that Bungie does better than any other developer in the space right now, and that is their connection to the community. Although the layoffs have broken this communication a bit, it doesn't discount the fact that they've been doing This Week at Bungie, now This Week in Destiny, every week excluding holiday weeks. These updates, even when quite small, gives players a peek into what's coming up. These are especially useful when there's upcoming sandbox changes where players can get some sort of idea of the weapons they should look at chasing when a massive meta-defining change hits weapons. Not only does this allow content creators to get ahead and post news videos and thoughts, but it also lets gamers who haven't had that much time to play know weeks in advance what weapons they might want to look at chasing so they're prepared for the update just like everyone else. Now, Destiny may not be dead yet, but let's look at the future of Destiny and if it could die within the next year or few years. The thing is, no one really knows. We're in uncharted territory with such massive changes coming to the game, like the new episode DLC delivery system instead of seasonal content that Bungie have been delivering over the past few years. That, along with the end of the Light and Dark saga, players really have no idea what's next for Destiny. Is it time for it to die off? Will there be a Destiny 3? Or will Bungie just continue to develop Destiny 2 for the foreseeable future? Let me know what you think in the comments below. That's all for this video. I hope you have enjoyed my first video essay, and it won't be the last on this channel. If you did enjoy, feel free to drop a like, comment, or even a cheeky sub. And until next time, stay yappin'.